What takes a vision, even a divinely inspired one, and plants it firmly on solid ground? For 50 years, the North Hills Church has lived that experience, going from the inspiration described by Nehemiah, what God had put into my heart to do, to the imagination and innovation and cooperation and, yes, perspiration required to establish a new church community. By the time the vote was taken by the board of the Pomona Seventh-day Adventist Church to initiate the North Pomona Project, the vision was coming sharply into view. Since the church in Pomona was ministering to a very large geographical area, plant a new congregation that would expand the dynamic influence of faith and discipleship into the farther developing regions of the Pomona Valley. As the minutes of the Pomona Board stated, it is impossible for one church to maintain a dynamic influence over such a geographic area and population. And that vote was soon endorsed by the Southern California Conference, and a new company, and then very soon a new church, sprang to life. What was imagined became real in the initial rented facility of St. Luke's Lutheran Church on Baseline Avenue, and then on the United Methodist Church on Foothill Boulevard in Claremont. Terry Cassingham became pastor. What was real was not a building, but people and families establishing a community, a growing and, as had been envisioned, a dynamic community. Soon 50 families made up what was called the North Hills Church of Seventh-day Adventists, worshiping, teaching, nurturing, serving, and looking expectantly to the future. And then, under God's guidance, a creative opportunity. An opportunity opened up to the young congregation. 5 acres of land owned by the Catholic Archdiocese of Los Angeles, intended for the construction of a new school, became available when plans for the school were shelved. 5 acres on Mountain Avenue in Claremont at the easternmost border of Los Angeles County, for sale. It was a large parcel even for a church campus. But then, the innovation, under the guidance of the building committee headed by Bert Howard and Doug Ewing and the new pastor, Jim Walters. The new building project would become 2 projects. 2.5 acres would be subdivided into a cul-de-sac of 8 homes to be sold, and 2.5 acres would become the campus of the North Hills Church. The proceeds from the sale of the homes would help pay for the development of the church property. Such was the inspiration and the innovation, but the vision had to be seen not just by the pastor or by a few leading members, but by the 50 families. And in an extraordinary moment of cooperation, the congregation, the Pacific Union, and the Southern California Conference, and the building committee, and contractor Earl King, who was a member of the Pomona congregation, together began to make the vision real. There were financial pledges, further envisioning of a child development center on the campus, and of course, lots of sweat equity into the building project. The inspiration in Pomona had become the perspiration in Claremont. And true to the innovation of the building committee and contractor Earl King, the sale of the 8 homes yielded $85,000 in proceeds toward the financing of the church campus. And with expanding participation and cooperation, the families of North Hills pledged $100 a month here. You know, we still have Bert and Thelma Howard's pledge card for that amount. And $50 or $75 a month there, which was a commitment of a lot of money at that time when an entire home mortgage for a family would be $300 or $400 or $500 a month. The vision of the few had become a commitment to participation of more and more until its realization by the many. The many who have entered the life of the North Hills Church since the days of the North Pomona Project in 1972. And what has been realized from that time until today is Not a building, even the beautiful one we still find delight in, but a community on a journey together. Since the completion of the building in 1979, it has been updated and renewed and made still more beautiful, but always in the service of the ever-renewing vision of our community, sharpened in the current declaration of mission, to introduce people into the community of Jesus and to develop passionate disciples. We are still that community, filled with inspiration and innovation and cooperation and, yes, perspiration, and even more clearly focused on welcoming you and those you and I will meet today and tomorrow and the day after into our community of Christ followers, His passionate disciples. Together, we follow Him wholeheartedly. Together, we grow continually. Together, we serve sacrificially. Together, we share with that dynamic influence that goes far beyond who we are alone as separate individuals. We are empowered by the resurrected Jesus, who has raised us to life, and by His eternal creative Spirit who inhabits us. He is our life, as Paul writes in Colossians 3. The North Hills Church, today, right here, and on into eternity.